Welcome back to Taiwan Outlook. We've been joined by Professor John Garver of Semnon School of International Affairs at Georgia Institute of Technology. Professor Garver, we talk about our U.S.-Taiwan policy. As we know that the key concept or term used by American administration in describing its policy towards the region is the so-called status quo policy. But as we know, it's very dynamic. Things change every day. Can we really maintain a status quo in the region?
Well, let me suggest that the status quo is that the people of Taiwan govern their lives individually and collectively, that there is a democratically elected government on Taiwan and laws are made through a democratic consultative process. The people of Taiwan enjoy de facto, if not de jure, sovereignty. And on the other hand, the status quo is that the United States and China are able to cooperate in a number of areas, most importantly economic. And the status quo has brought great prosperity to Taiwan. It's contributed very substantially to the prosperity of the Chinese people on the mainland, and it's had economic benefits for the United States. So it is a dynamic status quo, but if you mean that the people of Taiwan govern themselves and the United States is able to cooperate with China by accommodating China's position on Taiwan to some extent, and all three parties are able to enjoy a win-win economic situation, yes, I think that status quo can continue.
But the harsh reality is that China is, develops military power, quickly and strongly, which could tip the military balance in the Taiwan Strait, which could also lead to some instability. What can we do to respond to that kind of increase in military imbalance in the region?
Well, speaking as an American, I would say that Taiwan should take its defense more seriously. I think that Taiwan needs not only to acquire the hardware, but I think Taiwan, this is my own view, speaking as simply as a private American citizen, that Taiwan needs to acquire not only hardware, but also the software up here in the brain, that it does live under a situation of threat and that it has to take that quite seriously.
But on the other hand, some people argue that it's almost impossible for us to engage some sort of arms race with the PRC. So some sort of modus vivendi should be one approach to resolve the difference between the two sides. What's your view on that?
Well, remember what happened in '96 when the missiles were flying. The stock market collapsed. There was a withdrawal of money from the banks. There was a swarm of people to the airport to get out. There was a run on the stores to buy toilet paper and canned goods and things like that. Really, I think that type of psychological preparedness is as important as the hardware. If Beijing thinks that Taiwan is a house of cards that would collapse with a good hit, then I think it's more likely to come to that conclusion that would work.
But the thing is, China will not sit idly by. They would do things to divide the society of Taiwan, try to weaken the morale or even psychological, preparedness for that kind of threats or blackmails. What can we do about it? Especially Taiwan is a democracy, very transparent, and China can, put their fingers in Taiwan's domestic politics and so on. What's your suggestion for that kind of, countermeasures on the part of Taiwan?
I guess I'd say there has to be a balance. On the one hand, I think needs to be a recognition that certain things are simply so antithetical to U.S. interests that the United States cannot support them. For example, policies or positions which attempt to change the de jure status quo of Taiwan. But on the other hand, and I think that in line with that, the current effort to expand cross-strait relations is very good. I even sometimes have hopes that Taiwan democracy might have an efficacious effect in rejecting the notion that democracy won't work in Chinese civilization, that in some way Chinese civilization is incompatible with democracy. Taiwan's experience is a powerful refutation of that. So I think that's good. On the other hand, there is nationalism is very strong in China. Taiwan is an extremely emotional issue. It's very easy to rouse passions in China by even touching on the Taiwan issue, and the government there, this government, we talked earlier about all the social dynamite laying around in China, the grievances, and that government, if is criticized for being weak on Taiwan, again, that house of cards could collapse. So. There's a lot of incentives, plus what the PLA thinks, who views itself as a protector of China's, core national interest. Yeah. So there is the possibility that under certain circumstances, China could opt to use military force. Yeah. And that has to be coldly realized too, I think.
Yeah, but for some people, the issue of Taiwan for China has now become not just a nationalistic issue, but also become a strategic issue. In other words, China wants to develop its Blue Sea Navy and then to project their power to the Pacific. So Taiwan being taken back by China is very important for China to become a real leader in the region. Do you think that?
Well, yeah, okay. There is that. But on the other hand, we were talking earlier about the reassurance diplomacy, an attempt to reassure Russia and Japan and Korea, North and South, and Vietnam and Thailand and Indonesia and India, that this very powerful China, which is emerging before our eyes, is not going to throw its weight around.
But it also depends on what kind of time frame we are talking about, right? In the short term, China may be behaving, trying to show the neighboring countries that it's very responsible. But how about in the long run?
Well, yeah, I think that, China's objective is to achieve a mid-range of prosperity by 2050, and after that, well, what happens? Well, we don't know. We can't know. But I don't think that the recovery of Taiwan is on Beijing's agenda now. It seems to me that Beijing's agenda now is to maintain the status quo, to prevent Taiwan from moving towards de jure independence. And so I think there's common ground there.
For all the countries in the region, the challenges for them is how to deal with the rise of China. And apparently there are two possible choices. One is to try to join the United States, try to hedge against possible threat from China, or on the other hand, to jump onto China's bandwagoning.
Is that an either-or choice?
Oh, a combination of both.
I think, I don't think it is an either-or choice for most countries. If you look at the Southeast Asian countries, on the one hand, they clearly see China's market as a real opportunity. And want to plug into that. They're trying to attract Chinese investment, and the commodity prices have gone up to their benefit and so forth. On the other hand, they recognize economic competition, that a lot of the investment that's going to China is no longer going to Indonesia or Thailand. But all in all, they view it as, and they're delighted that China is pursuing this course rather than the course that pursued in the early 90s of purely bilateral diplomacy, let alone what it pursued under Mao Zedong, which was support for revolutionary movements. So they're delighted with that. But on the other hand, they're quite happy to have the United States stick around, and they have U.S. military presence, and Japan and India, even India too, and the Europeans. So if you have all these other powers in there, they'll dilute China's presence. So it's not an either-or choice. It's I think most countries have some combination of it.
That's right. And let's talk about the U.S. policy in the region. And some people criticize the Bush administration for paying too much attention to Middle East, to Iraq. So the preoccupation with those issues has led to ignoring the U.S. The changing situation in the region. Do you think that has been the case?
Not really. When I look at the U.S. relation with Japan and the U.S. relation with India, the two cornerstones of this region, I see tremendous development, forward movement under the Bush administration. Now, maybe in Southeast Asia, perhaps, there's been too much focus on Islamic Islamic extremism and so forth. But broadly speaking, I don't think so. I think that, again, the Bush administration has built a totally new Indo-U.S. relation, and I think that Japan and the United States are moving towards a really new, maybe even a global partnership.
Finally, let's talk about the emerging challenges to the regional security and stability. What do you think would be the possible sources for instability in the region?
Well, over the long run, what we've been talking about, China's immense power. China is going to have to continue reassuring all countries of the region and the United States, or it will find itself drifting into a countervailing coalition. You know, I think of the analogy with Germany. When Germany was united after the Franco-Prussian War in 1871, German power already, industrial power already was preeminent, and military power was preeminent on the continent. And Chancellor Otto von Bismarck realized that, and Bismarck's the sine qua non of his diplomacy was to prevent Russia and France and Austria, Hungary, and Britain from uniting together against them. And very successful. Reassurance we're talking about. This was, you know, Bismarck's term. After Bismarck and another Kaiser, they pursued a far more ambitious policy of world power, of Weltmacht, building high seas fleets, collecting colonies in the Far East and Africa and so forth. And that was the road that took Germany down to 1914. You know, I think that China's diplomacy is very sober and prudent. And I hope it continues that.
And that's why we still need the so-called hedging strategy.
That's right, exactly.
And thank you very much, Professor Garver, for your insightful analysis.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And thank you for watching Taiwan Look, and see you next time.